South Africa and Scotland, folks. 42 points to 28. I feel like that's probably the game that we were kind of hoping for from England last week when England were on that hot run last year. We thought someone was going to go to South Africa and give them a decent run for their money. But it was the Scots rather than the English. And like Schalk Burger, who was on the English commentary, said at the end of that game, it's kind of a what if, because he said the Springboks were there for the taking. I don't think he's too far from wrong in that if there was ever a time for Scotland to go down to South Africa and get a win, it was this game because they had more than enough chances. Absolutely blew heaps of chances. You got to give a fair bit of credit to the Boks defence for holding them out and forcing knock-ons and whatnot, but geez, the chances were there. The Boks, on the other hand, they're clinical. When they go down the Scottish end, they score tries. They just didn't go down there as often. We'll get to that stat at the end, but yeah, we'll go through some of the key events and whatnot. You guys can let us know your thoughts. Crazy, crazy game. I've only watched this one very much delayed. It was on in the middle of the night here in NZ, so I was asleep, but I'm glad I didn't have any spoilers for it because it would have taken away from what was a pretty epic contest. Obviously, Rusty made a bunch of changes for this game, so you weren't sure how they were going to kind of gel in, and the Scottish guys were coming over from Argentina, so you weren't sure with the jet lag and whatnot how well they would settle in, but I don't know, both sides I felt like seemed up for it pretty early. Scotland had a golden chance, and this is the story of their match, early when they had a 5-metre line out right down the South African end. Not straight. Not straight. Leads to a scrum. The South Africans call a scrum. So, yep. Golden opportunity, number one, missed very early, and that theme would honestly really continue. Both sides exchanged a few high balls. Jack Dempsey, penalty conceded in the 22. The South African got the scrum going again. But to be fair, they missed a chance of their own because after a scrum free kick, Ambrose Papier got himself held up trying to have a wee snipe. So a missed opportunity for both teams. But again, here's the difference. Goal line dropout from the Scots. The South Africans run it back at them. And Ambrose Papier, on his second chance, rounds a couple of the Scottish forwards with a slight gap at the side of the ruck. And it's try time for the Boks. So 7 points to 0 on his return to South African colours. Ambrose Papier gets a try, so congrats to him. And it's a quick fire double from the restart. One of my favourite tries of this game, mainly because Bowen Fenter somehow managed to hold up Cobus Visa in the air as he was tilting over his head. Very similar to what we've seen in that famous clip from The Beast. Back in the days, who was The Beast holding up? I can't remember. But yeah, it was an absolute epic bit of strength from Bowen Fenter. And then Visa with a big old carry. A couple of them, to be fair, in the build-up. Paul de Villiers, really good go-forward ball from the Springboks. When they got ahead of steam up, they were very hard to live with. And then Evan Roos able to finish it off from close range. So after a decent period of Scottish pressure, they've come away with nothing. And the Boks have come away with 2 chances and essentially, well, maybe 3 chances and 2 tries from those chances. So 14 points to 0. It feels like a familiar story. But that being said, kind of like last week at Ellis Park, the away side, after going down to a multi-score lead early, had a bit of a decent revival. They felt like they needed to score pretty quick, smart, and they gave it a good crack. They threw the kitchen sink at the Scots, 12 phases, and it was pleasing to see them actually playing their game. Like, the Scots, I thought maybe, do they try and switch it up? Do they try and... Like, there was a bit of that high ball, contestable stuff early, but the Scots didn't really put a heck of a lot to boot to ball, similar to last week. It's not their game to be a kind of high-kicking team. It's similar to the Six Nations. They like to be high-passing. They like to get the backs touching the ball. They want Finn Russell having loads of touches. They want Tuipulotu in the action, and that's what we saw. I just felt like in the pre-match, that doesn't usually match up well against South Africa, but they actually got the game going pretty well, like 12 phases, advantage. They had a line-out attack, and then Grobelaar did really well to win a penalty for the Boks at the breakdown, so another missed chance from the Scots. They had a mixture of kind of direct carries up the guts and getting a bit of width in their game. Fussy had a kick out on the full, which gave the Scots a bit more territorial pressure. They had a maul in the South African 22. You had Kyle Rowe and Finn Russell having big carries. All of that ends in a knock-on. So all this pressure, South Africans tackling us, tackling, sometimes not tackling, sometimes their tackles were being missed and the Scots were getting some good go forward. But nothing comes from it. The only kind of bright side for them is from the resulting knock-on, they actually managed to win a scrum penalty against the Boks, which is unusual, and they gave the Scots essentially that second bite at the cherry, the South Africans, and the Scots took it. So I guess kind of similar to the dropout one for the Papia try. On second chance, you get it. This time it's Matt Fagerson from close range after a 5-meter tap. They kind of set a little midfield maul, which was interesting to do that against the Boks because the Boks were the ones innovating that a while back. And yeah, with the advantage, Matt Fagerson gets the opening try. It's taken 33 minutes, but they're on the board. So 14 points to 7. And then the Scots had a kind of quick-fire double of their own by scoring one before half-time. The crowd didn't like a kind of late contact with Apulele Fassi and Finn Russell colliding, but I don't know that Finn Russell could have disappeared, as he's just kind of standing there as Fassi makes his kick and clatters into him. I don't think there was anything doing in that one. I think the officials checked it, but the crowd didn't like it. Anytime a guy goes down in a heap like that, it doesn't look great, but I didn't think there was anything in it. But yeah, Scott's got another 22 entry. They managed to get some nice hands going. Those key men I mentioned, Finn Russell offloading the tackle after it's seemingly kind of broken down a bit, but he offloads in the tackle too. Piloto's a big carry, draws about 3 Bok defenders, which again I don't think they'll be very happy with, and then pops it to Kyle Rowe. So try time, and it's 14 points apiece going into the Sheds at halftime. Scotland have been pretty good value for that 14 points because they've had 60% possession and they've had 56% territory, which is not something you generally expect playing the Boks. The Boks are usually a really high possession, high control team. Second half, Ben Jason Dixon gets himself yellow carded. That one I thought, I guess so, but if you zoom in on every ruck, you're probably going to find contact like that a fair bit. Again, it's one where does he touch the head? Yep. Is it egregious? Nope. So, I don't know. That one gets himself yellow carded, but what does Scotland do during the yellow card? Nada. You got to give the Boks. I think you probably could argue they win the game here because it's a psychological blow to go for these 10 minutes, have multiple chances and score nothing, and then for the Boks to retake the lead not that long later. So he gets the yellow card as Ben Jason Dixon for that kind of head contact at the breakdown as he's trying to disrupt the weak kick. The Boks ring the changes in reply. They bring on a bunch of their subs. Can Scotland score versus 14? No. They get the maul going. They get advantage. They get some width on the ball. They get held up. Big mischance then. They go 16 more phases against 14 men. Knock on deep in the Springboks 22. Yellow card finishes. Nothing doing. Golden opportunity. And then 57 minutes. Elric Lowe. It's one shot. That's what I mean. It's like demoralizing if you're a Scottish fan, and absolutely invigorating if you're one of the Bok players, right? You've just been defending for days with 14 men. Then you go down the other end. One chance, one try. And it starts from a Scottish era as well because they had a line-out maul, which they just kind of knocked on at the back of their maul, which gave the Springboks an entry down into the Scottish end. They go through some phases. They get advantage with, and Elric Lowe, try time for the Boks. So, yeah, man. I feel like that's more of I don't watch any football anymore, but I feel like sometimes it's one of those ones where you just see, and I haven't even been watching the World Cup to be fair, but you see a team take a shot, like 12 shots on goal, and they don't score nothing. The other team just goes on the end and scores like bang once. Sometimes it happens in rugby as well. Yeah, 21 points to 14, and it looks like they're going to run right at the Boks. Maybe my favorite try of the game from the Boks. They get some really nice space. Kewan Horn, who's come on, he gets it to Damien Willemse, who has an offload. Edwin van der Merwe takes the contact, and then Williams pops it quickly back out to Willemse, who gets another touch on the ball. And he does really well to reach out for a try. And it started with the forwards. Like, it's the backs who finish it, but it's a big old Springbok maul, which gets advantage, allows them to have a free hand in it. It's the consummate kind of Springbok try, right? Big, powerful forwards, finished by some electric backs. It's pretty sweet. That's 28 points to 14. At that point, I'm thinking it's game over. And at 65 minutes, I think it's going to be a rout because Zach Porthen, he's able to get one. That one's maybe not quite as slick. I mean, it has a slick build-up. But yeah, it's more of a kind of close range. Close range, that one. It's, maul penalty conceded, breakdown penalty conceded. The Scots kind of piggybacking up the field, loose line out, close range forwards, and then Porthen goes over. So he had a couple of carries in the build up to that one, to be fair, Zach Porthen. So 35 points to 14 feels like Scots have got no chance. But again, to their credit, they kept fighting, and it was just a wee sneaky little kickoff, wasn't it? Like a bit of innovation from the Scots, just a short kickoff to Kyle Steyn, catches the Springbok guys a little bit unawares. Then you get the forwards. The forwards in combination. This is probably my favourite of the Scottish tries, just because I guess kind of how unexpected it was. But Cummings goes between him, Kunu and Nokia. Really nice play from the big lock, and he gets it to Bayless on the support line. So not quite game on, but it is game on because they get the next one. Quick fire double. No kick from their exit on the restart is one thing I like. Like, obviously, it's hindsight that if it works out, you look genius. And the Wallabies tried this a couple of times last night, and it didn't work for them. Like, you felt like just kick it, exit. Don't muck around on your own half. The Scots, I guess the game's already at that point where you need to probably have a crack, and it pays off for them. Maybe the Boks were expecting the kick. The Scottish guys do not kick. And Gregor Hiddleston, the reserve hooker who's come off the bench, is involved in bloody everything. He has missed everywhere. Only his second cap. And he's in South Africa. High pressure environment, teams on the ropes. He's getting carries, he's getting cleanouts, he's getting the break from their own half. It is magic stuff. And White's able to finish it off with a nice little bit of power from close range. That's the kind of try they needed earlier when they kept bloody knocking it on. But they weren't getting them. But they did get that one to make it 35-28. That's the final scoring for the Scots, but it's back to game on. But they don't get it. They did have another big break again, not kicking from the exit. Bradbury had a big line break. They had a kick pass to Kyle Steyn, which I swear Kyle Steyn, 9 times out of 10, takes that cross kick. He is usually Mr. Consistent, but Grant Williams is doing a cracking job from the bench as well to kind of shadow him and put a bit of pressure on him, so he forces the error. That was maybe the shot, I think. That was the shot. That's another one of many missed chances from the Scots. Finn Russell passed it into touch a bit long after a Tuipulotu big carry earlier, so again, maybe kind of half chance there gone. And then the next minute, the South Africans deny the losing bonus point to the Scots with a really nice bit of maul advantage. Pollard, grubber kick through for Creel, and yeah, he's got some nice shimmy steps to make it 42 points to 28. So it looks comfortable enough for the Springboks on the scoreboard. But man, the Scots gave them a good game. I think this is a good game for both teams, and the Boks made a heap of changes. They still get a bonus point win, and they were put under heaps of pressure. I think they will learn more from this game, especially the guys who were coming in and kind of relatively low caps, than if they just mopped the floor with the Scots. And the Scots, they've seen that they can play their game against the Springboks in South Africa, even if it is a much changed up Springbok team. These are bloody good players, so they'll look back on this with a bit of regret in terms of missed chances, but they'll know that they can mix it with the big boys at times because they've tended to struggle with the Boks and the Irish with their styles. But no, the Scots played their game. Possession finished 64-36 to the Scots, and I went back and looked at the stats that I've kept for like the last 4 or 5 years, and I've never seen the Boks have that low possession. Unbelievable. 60% territory for the Scots. Defenders beaten is 46-21 to the Scots. Clean breaks is 12-6 to the Scots. Offloads 16-3 to the Scots. Penalties conceded is against the Scots, but it's 10-9. It's not really lopsided. Turnovers won is 3-2 to the Boks. So they did at times win kind of key turnovers to shut the Scots down. But man, yeah, pretty crazy game. Individuals, Tuipulotu had heaps of carries. He had 72 metres, 6 defenders beaten. Steyn had 7 defenders beaten. Nokia had 19 tackles. So, yeah, Willems had 15 tackles, a bunch of carries. Some cracking stuff. But the key stat of all stats, which I think really sums up the game, is 22 entries. Get into your operations 22. Did you score? For the Springboks, it was 22 entries. And they finished with 6 tries. That is a hell of a conversion rate. That is deadly. It's ruthless. Whatever you want to call it. That's a world champion team, right? For the Scots, they actually had more 22 entries. They had 11. And yet they only scored the 4 tries. So the chances were there, but they were unable to beat the Springboks defense to take them. So a cracking game to start my Sunday morning over here in NZ. Again, apologies for the delay. I'm about to go watch England play Fiji, which I also have not been spoiled to, thankfully. So fingers crossed that was a good game. But you guys let me know your thoughts on this one. How do you think the Boks line up next week for Wales? If you're a Scottish fan, are you disappointed? Are you pleased with how you were able to mix it? You guys let me know your thoughts. Take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Ta-ra.